Apparently, the US has surprised China with a wonderful gift that we are giving to ourselves. Basically, the US and China are sitting at the Christmas tree on Christmas morning. We are comparing presents, and the US received a brand new PlayStation 12, while China unwrapped a measly PS2. And China isn't allowed to even look at our shiny new toy. We are working on something called a liquid uranium rocket. Sounds crazy, right? Which is technically still a theoretical rocket propulsion system that uses liquid uranium, typically in the form of a molten uranium compound or solution, as a propellant or energy source. Unlike traditional chemical rockets that burn solid or liquid fuels with an oxidizer, a liquid uranium rocket would likely leverage nuclear reactions such as fission for propulsion, offering significantly higher energy density and efficiency. So I've got this article here. Let's see. From the Sustainability Times, China caught off guard as U.S. unleashes a liquid uranium rocket to conquer Mars with unmatched nuclear speed. Amidst groundbreaking advancements in space exploration, researchers are developing a revolutionary liquid uranium fueled rocket engine that promises to double the efficiency of current propulsion systems, potentially transforming interplanetary travel. We'll see if that actually ends up happening, but they're apparently getting pretty close to it. The pursuit of advanced space propulsion technologies is reaching new heights with the development of the Centrifugal Nuclear Thermal Rocket, or CNTR. This cutting edge engine uses liquid uranium fuel and promises to double the efficiency of current space travel methods, as teams from the University of Alabama in Huntsville and the Ohio State University lead the charge. The potential for more efficient interplanetary travel becomes increasingly tangible, with a focus on revolutionizing how spacecraft reach their destinations. The CNTR could be a game changer in the field of space exploration, paving the way for missions to Mars and beyond. Nuclear thermal propulsion has long been seen as a promising alternative to chemical rockets, largely due to its higher specific impulse. For context, NASA's Draco program aims for a specific impulse of about 900 seconds using solid core NTP systems, which is already impressive compared to chemical rockets. And the key lies in the use of a centrifuge to spin the molten uranium through which hydrogen gas is bubbled and expelled to generate thrust. The transition from solid to liquid fuel not only enhances efficiency but also increases the spacecraft's delta V or Delta 5 capabilities, which is crucial for deep space missions. Despite its promise, the CNTR faces significant engineering challenges, so we're not quite there yet. One major concern is managing the engine's nuclear reactions, or neutronics. And another challenge involves understanding the movement of hydrogen bubbles through the liquid uranium. While the CNTR is not yet ready for a full prototype, ongoing research seeks to refine this promising technology. With further modeling and optimization, this technology could enable more efficient and cost-effective missions to distant planets, bringing us closer to a future where interplanetary travel is a reality. But let's be real. The interplanetary thing is amazing, but largely the cover for what they really want to develop, which is weapons. I'm not sure what kind of weapons they have in mind, but it's probably beyond catastrophic. Putting missile silos on the freaking moon and probably even Mars. That would be hard to intercept a missile that's dropping straight down on you from the freaking moon. But what they really need to do is to keep this research, these blueprints, the schematics, the Word documents, or PowerPoints, or whatever the hell they have, as far from an internet connection as humanly possible. See, Iran, they understand this regarding their nuclear development programs, given the fact that we had to put a mole into the Iranian facility to insert a flash drive and unleash Stuxnet into their mainframe, spinning the uranium-enriching turbines so fast that they started exploding. But for students that are in these universities, like in Ohio and in Huntsville, Alabama, do a background check so deep, not even his or her best friend's cousin's aunt's husband's nephew even has distant connections to the CCP or any other government for that matter. China lags behind the US with tech development, but not too far in some cases, because we apparently can't help ourselves but plug our precious intellectual property into a damn Ethernet port. I mean, I don't know. or we aren't vetting people nearly well enough, at least. But it's either that, or I have to ask who in the government is handing our secret technology over to China? I mean, is that what the CIA is up to these days? I mean, frankly, that wouldn't surprise me, especially given the political climate these days and the ongoing hostile bureaucracy happening in Washington, D.C. I mean, the Secret Service, they're insanely incompetent. The FBI, they keep covering up all kinds of shit. And even the USAID, they're dumping billions of dollars into non-government organizations, NGOs, which is tragically hilarious on its own. So anyway, I did pull something up here on Grok. So just to kind of figure this out a little bit, actually, let me go over here first. What is a liquid uranium rocket before I get over to China? A liquid uranium rocket refers to a theoretical or conceptual rocket propulsion system. And the key concepts is nuclear propulsion, which is the core idea is to use nuclear fission to heat a propellant like hydrogen to extremely high temperatures, creating thrust by expelling the heated gas through a nozzle. Liquid uranium could serve as the fissionable material in a nuclear reactor designed for rocket propulsion. And the liquid uranium, it's uranium in a molten state. So basically, it's molten uranium metal or a uranium salt, which could theoretically be used in a reactor where it acts as both a fuel and a coolant, simplifying the system, which would be awesome. This is distinct from solid fuel rods used in traditional nuclear reactors. So if they figure out this technology, they could potentially use it for just nuclear power on the ground even. I mean, maybe in theory. But so anyway, this is distinct from solid fuel rods used in traditional nuclear reactors. So the high efficiency nuclear rockets, including those using liquid uranium, could achieve much higher specific impulses than chemical rockets, potentially enabling faster interplanetary travel. But there are some challenges, such as extreme temperatures. Uranium melts at around 1,132 degrees Celsius, or about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, requiring materials that can withstand such conditions. So, got to come up with that. And also, the obvious radiation, and of course safety. Managing radioactive materials in a rocket poses significant engineering and safety challenges. That kind of goes without saying. Also, the containment, which would be keeping liquid uranium stable during the launch and operation in space, is complex on its own. And then also the historical context, the concepts like liquid core nuclear rockets that were studied during the Cold War, but no operational liquid uranium rocket has been built due to technical and political hurdles. So, as of 2025, liquid uranium rockets remain theoretical or experimental, and the research, the research mostly, it's focused on solid core nuclear reactors or other advanced propulsion systems like ion drives, and no operational rockets use liquid uranium, and public data on recent developments is limited. So there you have it for that, as far as what a liquid uranium rocket actually is. So is China working on nuclear propulsion technology? And the answer is yes. China is actively developing nuclear propulsion technology for both space and naval applications. For space exploration, Chinese researchers, they've made progress on a 1.5 megawatt nuclear fission reactor designed for spacecraft, which could significantly reduce travel time to destinations like Mars. This prototype, developed by a collaboration of over 10 research institutes and universities, has passed initial ground tests, including assessments of its cooling system and corrosion resistance. The reactor is designed to be compact, folding into a container-sized volume for launch and then unfurling itself in space to power propulsion or generate electricity for off-world bases. The project, initiated in 2019, is a national key research program, and it aims to produce a reactor far more powerful than comparable systems such as NASA's planned 10 kilowatt device for lunar missions. I mean, I would have to look it up, but Mars rovers, what is the newest one? Is it Endeavour? I can't remember what the newest one is. Maybe Perseverance. I can't remember. I always get them confused. But the most recent one we have on Mars, it uses a miniature nuclear reactor, which powers it and allows it to move without the need for solar energy like our earlier rovers required, which those are somewhat inefficient because Mars is very dusty. Mars can get windy. Mars does have dust storms, and if the solar panels get covered in dust, well, they're not exactly useful anymore now, are they? So we already have small scale nuclear power that we're using not only on Mars rovers, but we also have them on nuclear submarines. We have them on our aircraft carriers. And with that technology already had been developed for probably decades at this point, I mean, not only can we start applying nuclear energy to rocket propulsion, which would be in the form of liquid uranium, but we could also work on nuclear reactors or nuclear power cells in residential homes potentially. Of course, there's the safety issue, there's the risk. I mean, it would have to be something that wouldn't be any threat at all to, having a nuclear meltdown or anything like that. Plus, you'd have to develop something that would be obviously safe to physically be around in your home. You don't want something radiating. I mean, like we all know what happened in Chernobyl. Of course, that's like extremely, extremely um, extreme of a circumstance. I mean, if something like that were to break in your home, but I mean, they put them in nuclear powered subs, and nuclear subs have lots of people on them. So, I mean, they figured it out at least in that environment, and that environment goes under the freaking surface of the sea. So, but anyway, let's see here. In the naval domain, though, China is working on nuclear propulsion for aircraft carriers. So we've already had it for decades. China's now working on it. Makes me wonder how much of it was given to China behind closed doors in secret by one of our government agencies or representatives on a silver platter. Wouldn't surprise me if that happened. I mean, who knows? It kind of surprises me when we come up with this insane top secret technology and China, a couple of years later, a few years later, oh, they just magically end up coming up with something very similar, albeit not as advanced as what we come up with. But I mean, they always tend to be on the right track at the very least, at least in the same ballpark. But I don't know. So anyway, open source intelligence and China working on nuclear propulsion for aircraft carriers. Open source intelligence, including satellite imagery and public documents, indicates that a prototype reactor, part of the Longwei Dragonmite project, is being developed at the Nuclear Power Institute of China's Base 909 in Sichuan. This reactor, likely a pressurized water reactor, is intended for a carrier-sized warship, making a significant step toward a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And such a vessel would enhance China's naval capabilities, obviously, offering extended range and endurance without the need for frequent refueling and freeing up space for aircraft fuel and weapons. Now, as far as I've read, at least I believe I read this, that U.S. aircraft carriers that are nuclear powered, they don't have to be refueled for something like 30 years or 35 years. I mean, like our nuclear aircraft carriers, they can travel the ocean without needing any fuel because they produce their own nuclear fuel on the vessel. At least that's what I read. I mean, I get maybe I could be wrong with regard to it propelling itself through the water. Maybe that actually takes a different fuel source, and perhaps the nuclear power just provides the electricity and the climate control and everything else. But I think that the nuclear power generator that's on aircraft carriers actually powers the entire thing, which would allow it to be out in the ocean traveling around for years and years on end without even have to stopping or even have to dock for refueling or anything like that, which is a good reason why the US just absolutely dominates the oceans, because we have that technology, which is, I mean, it's unparalleled. Like nobody else has anything like that, which is pretty groovy. And I mean, China's working on it. We'll see what ends up happening. I mean, hopefully they won't get to that point, but anyway, such a vessel like an aircraft carrier or a nuclear powered naval vessel that China develops, it would greatly enhance their naval capabilities and offer extended range and endurance without the need for frequent refueling. Okay, I already read all that. So anyway, these efforts, going down here to the third paragraph, these efforts reflect China's broader ambitions in nuclear technology, supported by its advancements in terrestrial nuclear reactors like the Hualong 1 and research into next generation systems, including thorium based reactors and fusion technology. However, challenges remain, such as ensuring safety, managing high temperatures in space reactors, and addressing the lack of legislation for potential accidents. While China is behind the US and Russia in some aspects, its rapid progress positions it as a strong contender in nuclear propulsion for both space and military applications. So that's why I wonder who in our government is giving little nuggets of information to China, because I have a feeling that's what's happening. Unless everything we put, everything that we develop in top secret, behind closed doors, is plugged into an Ethernet connection, because one way or another, China is getting their hands on way too much of our stuff that they really shouldn't have be privy to in any way, shape, or form. So, to that, I did ask one final thing. How much intellectual property does China steal from the US each year? And I don't know if you could really put a number on this liquid uranium technology, for example, but I just figured I would just ask the question. And estimates on the annual cost of intellectual property theft by China to the US economy, it varies widely, but the annual cost estimate ranges from between $225 billion dollars to $600 billion, dollars, which includes losses from counterfeit goods, pirated software, and stolen trade secrets, being this government technology that I've been talking about since the beginning of this video. But for instance, a 2017 report by the Commission on the Theft of American Intellectual Property estimated that Chinese IP theft, including trade secret theft and counterfeiting, cost the U.S. economy between 225 and 600 billion, and that's annually. That's each year. Similarly, posts on the X platform and statements from U.S. officials like the FBI director, Christopher Wray, cite figures in this range, with some claiming it equates to roughly $4,000 per American family of four each year. Imagine that. That's how much that China is stealing from our country. They're stealing the equivalent of $4,000 per American family per year. So, in case you wondered if China really is our adversary or really isn't our adversary, or should we really get along or shouldn't we, just imagine that. China is yanking $4,000 out of your family's pocket each year. You still want to be friends with them? I would think not. So the estimates, though, they're debated due to challenges in valuation, because some argue that figures may overstate losses by including the cost of developing IP rather than its market value, which can be significantly lower if the stolen IP cannot be effectively commercialized. And others note that not all losses are directly attributable to theft, as some involve legal technology transfers or market access agreements. The lack of precise data and the covert nature of cyber espionage, often linked to groups like APT41, further complicate exact calculations. But despite these uncertainties, the consensus is that Chinese IP theft through cyber espionage or forced technology transfers and counterfeiting imposes a significant economic burden on the US, which impacts industries from technology to pharmaceuticals. So that is why I don't think we should be trading anything with China anymore. We should be aggressively pulling the plug on trade with China. When I was observing Trump's tariff war against China, and it went north of 100%, went up to 150%, I was just dancing to it, man. I was so happy to see that. I get it. I get that it's going to be pretty hurtful in the short term. There's a lot of stuff that we get from China. I believe I read somewhere like 13 or 15% of all goods that we purchase in America is made in China. Honestly, I thought it was way higher than that, but apparently it's not. I mean, when you include everything, like textiles, motor vehicles, electronics, you name it, it's not as much as you really think. Even though companies like Amazon, I'm sure probably far more than 15% of things that are sold on Amazon are made in China. So some areas of the country would be impacted significantly if we cut off China, but not so much really if you really stop and think about it. There's a lot of other Southeast Asian countries out there that would produce goods and products and whatever for the US economy for just about as cheap as China would. I mean, there's quite a lot of countries, not only in Southeast Asia, but around the world, where manufacturing could be done more cheaply. But I mean, I've always been on the side of getting manufacturing back to the US, period. Things will cost a lot more. I get it. But one thing that the rest of the world doesn't seem to include in their manufactured goods is the coveted lifetime guarantee. And folks who are old enough to remember, once upon a time, a lot of things, if not most things that you purchased, came with a lifetime guarantee. All these things that were made in the US. If the item breaks, send it back and we'll replace it. Now, there's still quite a few products out there that still offer that. It's just not as common as it used to be. I mean, not by a lot, which would make it worth it. You could buy a $10 toaster from China, which is going to break in about 3 years, or you can buy an $80 toaster that's made in America and comes with a lifetime guarantee, and you'll never have to buy another toaster for the rest of your natural life. You could even hand that toaster down to your grandchildren, and they'll still be using it, and it will still function perfectly fine. I mean, there's not a whole lot of technology that needs developed with toasters. You don't need to connect a toaster to a Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. So hopefully that ends up happening. And the intellectual property argument alone, I think, is more than plenty reason for us to cut the Chinese umbilical cord. I mean, I think it's honestly ridiculous that we really got that deeply into trade with China in the first place when we had India that was pretty much right next door, which actually, aren't they literally next door to China? I mean, they're right there. And a sizable percentage of the Indian population, they speak English. They have some form of a democracy. They're not run by, a communist regime that's lording over their people who don't even have access to things like YouTube or TikTok. But TikTok, that's for a whole nother argument. That's a freaking nightmare. I mean, talk about, the U.S. waging war against the American people, brainwashing us from the inside out. It's absolutely insane. But anyway, I thought I would touch on that. I thought that was interesting when I came across that article that we're working on liquid uranium rockets, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, I think that the possibility of them building missile silos on the moon is realistic. I mean, why wouldn't they? If they had something that was capable of delivering a rocket from that distance, I'm sure that liquid uranium would certainly do so. And if it's something like a thermonuclear payload, then the whole uranium, the liquid uranium fuel really would kind of be irrelevant if the point of that rocket is to blow up and take out a military base or a whole freaking city, God forbid. But anyway, that's all I got. So see ya.